In today's video, we are going to be covering the new changes coming up in the 4th edition of the Occupational Therapy Practice Framework, or the OTPF for short. This is part 2 in a 2-part mini video series breaking down these differences so that you can know the most important updates to this OTPF. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like this video if you find this helpful. Welcome to the OT Minute. My name is Arno and I'm a third-year OT student. The OTPF is the guiding document for OT practice in the United States and is updated every 5 years. It's published by the American Occupational Therapy Association, the AOTA for short, and it's in its pre-publication stage. The content is pretty much set. It may just go through some formatting edits to get it ready for publication. AOTA members can access it online, and I've posted the link below for your convenience. The document outlines 12 main changes or modifications that the document aimed to accomplish, and those are the ones that we're focusing on for these videos. Last week we went through the first 6. Today we'll knock out the rest. If you haven't seen part 1, click on the info card. I would recommend watching that first and then come back to watch part 2. Alright, let's get into it. The 7th modification listed by the document and our first for today is actually 3 minor additions to client factors. Client factors are specific capacities, characteristics, or beliefs that reside within the person, group, or population and influence performance in occupations. First, gender identity is specifically added under a person's experience of self and time to clarify and build on the OTPF 3's definition. If you're like me and don't always remember where this fits into the big picture of the OTPF, experience of place and time is listed under specific mental functions, which is a subsection of client factors. So this change further clarifies and recognizes that gender identity is part of how a person experiences who they are and their personal identity. Second, the document states that the term psychosocial was expanded to match the ICF's definition. The OTPF 4 defines psychosocial functions as general mental functions as they develop over the lifespan, required to understand and constructively integrate the mental functions that lead to the formation of the personal and interpersonal skills needed to establish reciprocal social interactions in terms of both meaning and purpose. Psychosocial is now listed in the document as a unique global mental function under client functions, which is something that the OTPF didn't have. I understand that this is a little bit of a clunky definition and a lot to take in, so let's just simplify it and put it in maybe a little bit simpler terms. So psychosocial functioning is a mental function, a global mental function that helps us, 1, understand, and 2nd, use other mental functions to develop personal and interpersonal skills, which ultimately helps us to have normal, productive social interactions. I hope that helps to make it a little more bite-sized and understandable if you're hearing that for the first time. Alright, the 3rd term that is added under client factors is interoception, which is added under sensory functions and is defined as the internal detection of changes in one's internal organs through specific sensory receptors. I really like the addition and the recognition of this important sensory function, which is essential for really every occupation that OTs deal with on a daily basis. Now let's move on to the 8th modification, which is that preparatory methods and tasks, which is one of the types of interventions that's listed on the OTPF 3, has been changed to interventions to support occupations. And this is done to help reflect the intention of these interventions, which is ultimately to support occupation. I think this might be a bit of a tough switch that will take a lot of intentional effort from the profession, since preparatory methods and preparatory tasks are such a part of the OT language. So thanks to everyone who's been helping to get these videos out by sharing it and promoting it, and just overall increasing the awareness of this updated OTPF. The 9th change that the document aims to accomplish is to give clarity regarding outcomes of therapy, transitions for clients moving to the next stage or phase of treatment, and discontinuation of services. This is nicely outlined in Table 11 of the document, which describes what transitions and discontinuation of services looks like for groups, individuals, and populations. One thing that I like is the attention to detail in this section. For example, populations, instead of calling it transitions, it uses the term sustainability plan to denote that it's less about letting individuals or groups transition life roles or move to new levels of care or transition providers or settings, and it's more so about setting up a plan for maintenance and securing funding for the program or intervention because of the nature of population-based services. It now gives us a unique and distinctive language that can help us clarify terms when talking about outcomes for interventions focused on the population level, which is a level that I think OTs undoubtedly have a ton to contribute to. In fact, it would be nice to see what we can learn from this pandemic to know how we can be of even more help in the future during a pandemic such as this to ensure great occupational, mental, and physical health outcomes for whole populations. The 10th modification of the document is an addition of 5 new tables, which includes Table 1, examples of clients. This includes persons, groups, and populations. Table 3, examples of occupations for persons, groups, and populations. Table 7, which is about performance skills for persons. This again includes examples of ineffective and effective performance skills. And Table H, which focuses on performance skills for groups. This includes examples again. And finally, Table 11, which we've talked about previously in this video and the last one, which again covers occupational therapy process for persons, groups, and populations. As you can see, these tables really reflect the modifications we discussed in our last video, which includes an increased focus on groups and populations with lots and lots of examples throughout the document. Now moving on to the 11th modification of the OTPF 4. This one is more of a practical one that most practitioners probably won't care much about, but it is a helpful change that will really help in the long run for making the OTPF easier to look up and find online. The OTPF 4 uses the abbreviation OTPF when referring to itself instead of framework, which is what the OTPF 3 used. This simple change will help with search engine optimization, plus OTPF is just easier and shorter and more recognizable on platforms such as Facebook, LinkedIn, and other social media platforms. Moving on to the 12th modification is that they've simplified the visual for the OT domain and process. It's a lot simpler than the OTPF 3's visual. I'll pull it up so that you can see it. The aim or central goal of OT is at the center of the visual, which is achieving health and well-being and participation in life through engagement and occupation. This is the same as the OTPF 3's aim. The central aim is surrounded by a circle that outlines the main aspects of the OT process, which is evaluation, intervention, and outcomes. And finally, there is a circle that captures all the domains, including occupation, context, performance patterns, performance skills, and of course, client factors. The OTPF acknowledges that the process and domain interact in an unbelievably complex and dynamic way and really can't be reflected in a single visual. I hope this has been a helpful overview of some of the key updates of the OTPF 4. I'm sure there are more things to discuss, so if you think I missed something or there's something else that's worth noting, please drop a comment down below so that we can all learn from each other and really get familiar with this OTPF 4. That brings us to the OT question of the day. What do you think of these changes? Are there any that you really like or other changes that you would have liked to see? Drop your answer in the comment section below. Thanks so much for joining me on the OT Minute today. Subscribe, share this video, like it if you found it helpful. I'll see you in the next video.